for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We're in session. School's not in session, but Dr. Brown, we're at work. We're doing school board business, and we're going right at it. This is great, and it's July, and it's every month we do work. And so, any modifications to the agenda?
Yes.
Anyone? Seth?
The personnel report.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We need to remove the substitute administrator appointments.
Item number one, right?
One, yes. And the substitute teacher list.
Right, that's not item, right.
XVI.
That's, thank you, Judy Mack, for pointing out that that is number 16 in your program, and so we'll pull those two appointments for tonight and deal with them at a different time. There they are. Very good. Anything else? We're all set. Looking around, we're good. And I would point out on the agenda. Right, on the agenda, under school district business, the Fine and Performing Arts Partnership discussion, just our giving some clarity on our relationship with the Hangar Theater. That's not going to be done tonight. The Hangar folks could not be with us tonight due to a few reasons, but we'll deal with them probably in August. So item number A will be deferred until another time.
But item number 8 is going to come back. We're already going to have that conversation next meeting.
Right. So we will deal with them and deal with our relationship in August. So it's artistic. We deal with relationships, right? I mean, that's right. Okay. All right. Public and staff. No one did sign up. Students are apparently not here. I don't know where they would be. We don't need to respond to anything at this point, I don't think. So we'll go on with the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
J. True moves the consent agenda.
I second it.
This consent agenda has been amended several times, mainly due to the change orders. It's a long list. We are in construction season, and certainly reviewing the change requests. I think we're good. There was a few that should not have been there. Sean, that showed up after the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting last week that were not approved right now. So for the public's sake, we do read all these, and so we did pull a few that should not be there. So I think other than that, any questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Because I haven't been around that much. So number 11 in the change thing is something about a projector screen. Can anyone recall what's that? Did you buy one? Or?
We had an extensive conversation about the projector screen. How about we let... I'm sorry, Rob.
No, go ahead, Sean.
How about we let Dr.
I'm not
Brown-
on that committee. That's you.
Or unless you want me to speak to it, I can probably best.
You can add some things to this. I will say the auditorium is not equipped with the projector or screen currently. When doing presentations or when we have someone come in from outside in need of a projector or a screen of some sorts, we have to rent. And the renting has become rather expensive. If I was an oversight with the initial design of the actual Cup auditorium. So we've gone through various iterations of designs to get the right solution into that space. And the solution we have right now does involve a bit of a mechanical arm just because the way the actual Cup auditorium is built. So we have the best design in place now. We've gone back and forth, and this is the cheapest design that we've come across to this point. But this will meet our needs for many years, as far as the AV work and also as far as the physical makeup of the projector and the screen.
Is it it's a huge stage. Is this a big, how big's, I don't know. How big's the screen?
Well, frankly, the cost is not really the screen. The screen is really only a few thousand.
Really?
It's the wiring and
installation.
and the sound. And you have to control the projector because it's going to be up 40, 50 feet. You can't take a broom handle and stick it up and turn it on. So we're having to wire it to our system.
And much to our dismay, Jay, we found out is that the projector actually has to be on a mechanical arm that raises and lowers to not interfere with the catwalk that we just put up and everything else.
Right, it's going to be hanging
Hanging
from
from
the
the
catwalk.
ceiling. And so we weren't pleased, so we had a number of conversations and asked. And then we were also, the flip side is to continue renting, which is a couple $1,000s a time that we
Oh,
rent
wow.
equipment to set
Each
this up.
time it's, yeah.
Well, I'm sure it'll get used, I'm
Oh,
sure.
we'll use it every-
It's gonna get used a lot.
Well, let me go even more important. I think the directive was Dr. Brown, but not well.
And Jay, you should know that as with all the change orders, these were all reviewed at the meeting last Thursday, and Brad was there. And so Brad asked all his pertinent questions, and
Yeah, I felt like I was on the defensive where I was the architect. I just want to present.
Yeah.
This
So,
is the best solution, right?
right, and so went round and round with that, along with all the other change orders as well.
How much does this make us on Culp's change order, and how close are we to being over?
Well, we're close. I mean, there's hopefully this is the last item in the Performing Arts Center that needs to be addressed to. Well, that's what I get from our builders. So
We also asked that question as well, Judy, you should know, because that's obviously been a concern for us. You need the common phrase on time and under budget, or before,
least under budget.
Before time and under budget is what we're looking for. And so Culp has been a concern, particularly because some of the early things that have taken place we were planning for,
Yeah.
the water table. But we're okay with, we're decent with Culp. There's some others that may cause us some concern. Culp doesn't seem to be one of them right now.
Okay.
go ahead, Jay.
Many change orders for the Health and Wellness Center. Is there a theme? Is there an issue? Is that the water? Is it, is there any, where do you start?
Part of that was redesign of the entrance to the high school. So if you recall some of the conversation we were having before, is not only doing the parking lot and how the parking lot was going to be refashioned with, but also then as you come into the high school now, into the, which would be the new bus loop, what does that look like in front of the health and wellness clinic as well? So a number of things have occurred. Some of those are added on there as well. There have been some unexpected things that have taken place. That's the one that I'm most worried about for health and PD. That there seems to be, we had a very tense conversation on, what day was it? Monday, Tuesday? Thursday of last week.
I know you got a new canopy connecting for $169,000, and you got a.
Right.
And I haven't been to the meeting. And
No.
the entrance-
These are the questions to ask.
And the entrance gateway is 112,000 roughly.
Right, Jay.
So that all has to do with the entrance.
Well, part of the canopy, there has to be some covering structure.
Oh, we had that in the plan. No?
Well, right. I mean, there was, if you remember, well, you know, Jay, there's the covered walkway between, C building and B building, and that was torn out. And the kids asked, when is it going to come back? And I said, it's gone and never going to come back. And so, and then the kids never really came back either. But that's okay. But one of the alternatives in the bid process was to rebuild that walkway, and the price tag on that was over $400,000.
Yeah, all right, that was no.
Right, it was like no, but so now we have two buildings with doorways that have to have something. By state ed rule, we have to have the doorways have to be covered as they open. So we had to put, there has to be a structure in place that those doorways are covered when they are open and provide some coverage of, the entrance to the main lobby of the gym and then the entrance to B building.
And what are we doing? Is it a whole the
That's,
whole way?
No. There's just canopies over. That's what the canopies are.
Canopies on each side?
Right. Canopies on each side, and then there is a gateway entrance to the high school. That was
Yeah, I saw
basically the alternative.
And part of the things that, well, as you know, from one of my internal frustrations, the fact that there are frequently mistakes that are made either in design or elsewhere that have nothing to do with us, but somehow the bill ends up in our lap. And so this idea of, I don't know any of the profession where 20% error rate is considered to be good, but here's an example, we find ourselves in this path again. And so, yeah, none of us were happy about our last meeting on Thursday. There's some significant costs that are taking place. With the flip side of that being done, though, we also recognize that we are still under budget. This is probably a once-in-a-generation bond that we're enacting, and I think what we're doing for the high school speaks. I think it's money well spent, and it will speak greatly to the sort of kind of community culture school that we're trying to build. So it comes with a little bit of cost.
Right, but it should be noted that you know, the health and wellness project, really the phase 2 at the high school, was a catch-all for multiple projects within the high school that was really not a part of the original bond language. So, you know, really it's, okay, we're going to build a gym and a connecting building with a strength and conditioning center in it, and along with that have come many other projects. Part of the change orders are renovations to 3 art rooms at the high school.
I see that.
Right, so that's will be occurring as we get into September. You know, all the lockers are being renovated, removed. New lockers are going into the high school. So there's work going on throughout the high school, not just, you know, building of a second gym. We still have to deal with the parking lot outside the main office, you know, the J building,
J-lot.
right, J-lot. So that's something that needs to be dealt
What's
with.
going to be done there?
There'll have to be, you know, that was a piece of performing arts building that was not finished when we did the performing arts building, because we didn't like the prices on what they were suggesting there. So there will be some parking there, but it'll be reduced in scope, and you know, we'll get that finished up as well.
And there's an example of one that we sent back because the price tag didn't match what our wishes wanted.
Right. Overall, you know, Bell Sherman is coming along. That, you know, the new gym at Bell Sherman, that major construction project up this summer, we're still, you know, $6 million plus under budget, under our 98 million. We're about 92 right now, and that's still with projects that have not closed out. So we still think we can be within that range as we finish up all the projects. We are getting to that end point. Jay, as you know, we've been working on this for quite a while.
Speaking of which, I drove by Bell Sherman today. I was looking relatively impressive, particularly the annex and the pull-off looked quite nice.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So what you're seeing regarding these change orders are really some of the major decisions that had to be made regarding the phase 2 at the high school. You can see the Rosemary Lane, that is going to be torn up. That I thought was going to be closed off this week, but they're doing major work on the bus loop and parent drop-off area, and all the parking lot is being redone. That should be ready to go. It will be ready to go by the end of August. The renovations within the gym area, locker rooms, should be ready to go August 15th. That's when fall sports start. We have to have access to the building. So, you know, there are major renovations in the lobby, the main lobby outside of Bliss Gym and the pool. So there's major renovations going on there, and we're going to have to just coordinate with the contractors to make sure the kids have access, and coaches, and eventually September 1st we're ready to go, or September 2nd, 3rd, or whatever.
And Rob, if I can as well, part of
Please
stepping
do.
up the scale as well to make sure that the new facilities can be in use come January term.
Right.
Right, so we've had to step up the schedule a little bit for that as well, or put a little pressure on folks to get some jobs.
But we're not paying for overtime. Okay.
No, we didn't.
got a
That was an option, but
Yeah.
that
We told them they needed to find the time to make it happen.
Okay.
it wasn't really we weren't going to gain 6 months. We weren't going to gain that half year that we lost, you know, a year or so ago.
All right, my, you know, Brad question. Did we close up on LACS with the exception of the gym?
There's still a few items that they're closing up at LAC. That's what we're told. So the job is not zeroed out yet. but we're, they're close. And we did not get an update on the gym floor at LACS.
Did not.
No, we did not. But it will obviously be,
But there's a fix in place for the gym, for the flooding that took place, at least that we tried to address.
Okay.
but that's, and they're still working on that. We wanted a better, more concrete fix, I think, so.
Pun intended.
Right, well, trying to ensure that we did not have another water event at LACS. If there's some way to ensure that we're not going to have water pouring into a new gym floor, that would be great.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, well, just, hey, I'm no builder, but, so it was a long meeting, 3 hours plus, so it covered a lot of ground, so, any other?
Okay.
No, but all good questions. I mean, it's really, there's a lot going on, so it's an opportunity to get caught up on what's happening.
So when does finance and facilities meet regularly?
It's going to be Thursdays.
It's normally the third Thursday, but in August it will be the Monday prior to the board meeting, so the 22nd.
Okay.
Finance and facilities did combine, so there are some finance needs that need to be met before the next voting board meeting. Yeah. All right. Any other questions regarding this consent agenda? There's a lot of items, so I appreciate the questions. Moved and seconded, I believe, so all in favor? That's everyone. So good? Right, including personnel reports. So, Dr. Brown,
Sure, thank you.
good to see you.
Good to see you all also.
Here we go.
We are back at work. Monday marks the beginning of our professional development institute, and each of you invited to attend for the entire institute or for any parts of it. It begins at 8:30 Monday morning, and we changed the location. We will now be in the Ithaca High School cafeteria and library instead of BOE Middle School, and that's because of air conditioning. So it kicks off at 8:30 a.m. Monday morning, and it goes through Thursday afternoon, 3:30, and you're invited to be there at any point, at any time. Any questions about the Public Development Institute starting next week?
Is there an agenda, can I get how is that getting emailed out to
We
teachers?
will email you, but it's on our website. If there's a link from the homepage, it says Professional Development Institute. You click there and it brings up the agenda.
And are you asking teachers to go and get it there, or are you emailing them?
We've sent them letters, and we've sent them emails as well, and we've also told them to go to the website, which is being updated dynamically.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah, but we'll send something to the board also, and we'll highlight some of the sessions that you made.
And the date again?
It begins August 1st, 8:30 a.m. And we'll be together that first week for 4 days, and then the second week we bring a smaller group in for an additional 4 days. And again, our administrative retreat will be August 18th, 19th, and 20th. That will be 3 days in mid-August. Secondly, I wish to express gratitude to the board and the community for supporting me through what was the superintendent's transition plan. The transition is over, I hope, and it was fun, quite frankly. And we put together, it wouldn't be me to put together a 20-page report. We said we would report out on findings and report out on what people were saying. What we've done is we've captured video vignettes from the various stakeholders that were represented in the transition plan. And we have DVDs for each one of you. And we'll also post this to the website. And during board development, we'll have a deeper discussion around some lessons learned and so forth. But again, it's done, and we did everything we said we would do. And again, I know there was a subcommittee, an ad hoc committee that helped me with the transition, and the entire board and the community for helping us so much. And we're very appreciative of that. But again, we're putting a portfolio together versus a document that one would flip through. And we'll run promos for the video starting tomorrow morning, and the video will be on the superintendent's page as well. And that's it for me.
Very good. Thanks, Dr. Brown. On to school district business and on to the ad hoc budget committee report. And Sarah and Josh.
So we are here to report on 14 months of work that The ad hoc budget reform committee of this school board body has worked, and we're going to just kind of hit a few highlights of the work past and then speak primarily to looking ahead. And we're going to do this in 10 minutes, or probably speak for 5 or 6, and then have some few minutes for Q&A. So we had 22 community members in total come to one or more meetings, and about a core group of 10 folks. And you all have gotten a 4-page report electronically that lists people's names, but we had PTA representation, Fine Arts Booster Group, the Ithaca Youth Bureau, former teacher, parents, fairly wide participation, as well as three board members who came occasionally and 3 who were appointed and came regularly. And we had 12 meetings over 14 months. So there was a lot of willingness to get to work on this topic, and a lot of great talent. For instance, Rebecca Johnson was able to basically put in about 20 hours of professional work analyzing the survey that Dr. Brown first did for the district when, in the first few months he was here. She did a very good job of doing that data analysis as a result of serving on this committee. Had there not been a committee, had it not been an inclusive committee, we would never known that she had the skill, the talent, or the willingness to donate that kind of time and ability. So that was a great discovery. Of all the different points under our results and accomplishments, the only one we really wanted to lift up specifically is in the area of communications. We felt like the committee was really able to, working with Dr. Brown and his staff, improve the amount of information that was available and understandable to the general public. We had budget documents online. At a certain point, we reorganized those to make them easier for people to find what they were looking for, and there were videos of the meetings, the board meetings that dealt with budget were posted, and there were like 200 views sometimes, so we know that people were watching those meetings both live and after the fact. We also improved the budget flyer that goes out to all taxpayers. We heard a number of comments that the frequently asked questions section, which was new this year, was helpful. So that was a definite accomplishment. And then speaking to inclusion, we really are concerned, we're concerned and continue to be concerned that the budget process takes place out in the buildings, out in the community, as well as in this room. And so I feel like this committee was the beginning of a paradigm shift, that we can have civil conversations. We can actually have productive conversations. It doesn't have to be just people coming after a decision has been announced and coming to complain, to protest, to set up sort of this conflict between community and board. This committee allowed a more proactive way of stepping back and looking at the process as a whole, looking at what some of the hot buttons are. And one of the things that has come out of that, which we'll speak to more, but is the need for more teacher and staff participation. I think we made some steps in that direction definitely this year with Dr. Brown and his team's leadership. More things were discussed earlier at the building level, and that process needs to continue. And as that happens, parents and community members are reassured that as an organization, we have enough stakeholders working on these very important questions of how their money is going to be spent. So it was the beginning of a paradigm shift around inclusion. And I think the number of different meetings that we had, public meetings, also was very invitational, that we traveled out to Enfield and Caroline. We had different meetings at different times so that people could come and hear firsthand if they wanted to. And as a result of this work, the committee, the ad hoc committee, has made a recommendation, and Josh is going to speak to that.
Right, so the question is what's next, right? And we kicked around the idea, should this body continue in some fashion or not? And we came up with a different idea, and that of a budget advisory council. Okay, so this is a group that works with the administration really as a place to sound out budget proposals, right? So if there's something coming down the pike here, it's an opportunity to really look at that in some depth, think it through, think about how effective it'll be and what impact it'll have on the community and on the schools, on the board, and so forth. And also it's a group that would continue pushing, making sure that more inclusion happens and that the clear communication keeps getting better. With Kimberly's arriving there, that's a big piece that helps with that. And there's a number of other sort of pieces that have just now come into place, but this could be a group that really kind of moves that forward. That advisory council, which is helping the superintendent and the exec team craft their ideas to bring to the board, because it's the board that really makes the decisions about the budget, needs to have effective communication to the exec team. And that would be through the superintendent and the exec team, but also needs to communicate real well with finance, right? So that both the fiscal sides and the program sides of budgeting are happening together. So we would recommend that one or two folks be appointed as liaisons back and forth from the board, probably from finance, which is now, I don't know if there's any more people on finance and facilities since it's, got all that work to do, but that seems like a very important piece. There are a couple of us who did that. Jay sat on both, I sat on both. I'm such a novice, though, that at finance that I probably wasn't as effective as Rob and Brad, who weren't really assigned to the ad hoc budget committee, but showed up a lot. But that was very important to keep going on. Other recommendations for next year. It's clear that folks have started to get an idea of how to do budgeting differently, but more training is really necessary, especially at the principal and building level. You can see that. And it'll be important, going through next year to sort of pull out the success stories of how it worked well. For example, the way that we heard food service rethought of their budget and was able to look at things and bring stuff on budget that we thought was never going to get on budget and so forth. We'd also suggest in terms of presentation that next year folks might want to rethink the budget pamphlet, that it becomes more of an annual report. In some ways it lets the community know, so what are you getting for your money here, everybody? It's not just effectively an audit report and how we might spend it next year, but what did you get for your money that we spent last year? Other districts around us do something like that. And that as the budget scorecard, the balanced scorecard piece comes online with the strategic visioning process, right? That there be a budget component to that balanced scorecard in a way that folks can dig down and do that online. One other area that we really started with as an ad hoc reform committee was program evaluation, and we knew that with a new superintendent coming on board, it would not be fruitful to do much work there. We educated ourselves about some different models, but we wanted to wait till Dr. Brown was on board, and then by that time it was January, and we really needed to focus most of the committee's efforts on that current budget year. So program evaluation is a piece that really we hope will get addressed in the coming year along the theme of capacity building and in conjunction with the Strategic Visioning Council's work, so that as they're developing a strategy, how that strategy can be linked measurably to the way we're spending our money is thought about along the way, that there's some parallel tracking going on with periodic connecting points there, so that when a strategic plan is rolled out, we also have some framework for putting our resources to work for that plan and measuring what the results are, and then making new decisions as we go forward. So the program evaluation piece is
very juicy for a lot of the people who came to these meetings. That was their motivation. They really want to focus there and were willing to stay with us even when we said, you know, that's not really what we're ready to do yet. But I think that there's a lot of interest in the community to work, and there's a lot of resources nationally to call upon for that. So we think that's one of the centerpieces of the scope of work for the coming year. We envision this council as being bigger, probably twice the size. If we had 10 core members, we'd like to more formally invite and appoint, and Dr. Brown would be able to do that, members to it, pulling from all the stakeholder groups, and give a little cachet to serving on this council and being clear that it's not a place where conflicts are going to be hashed out, but a place where vision is going to be, you know, the framework is going to start getting filled in with details, and different approaches to budgeting can get vetted and tried out. So we think teachers, staff, both rural and urban community members, Ithaca Public Education Initiative, the Chamber of Commerce, EILC, the PTA, and you know, other people that aren't on this list, thinking outside the box a little bit. Over a year ago, when I first got involved in this process, and I was like, I don't know anything about how school boards work. I don't know much about the district. I know about Fall Creek School as the PTA president. And I talked to my business associates, because I'm a business owner, and I found, you know, Gene McFeeters was like, we absolutely ought to be a community of continuous learners around schooling in Ithaca. There's a lot of business people who would get involved if there was a clear scope of work, if there was a little cachet to being on this council. And Roy Schlather comes to mind as someone who spoke out at one of the meetings around community involvement. And lastly, we believe this council should work year-round. We're not seeing this as just a, you know, December through May committee, but a 12-month committee that could get started, you know, in August. So I think that is the gist of what's recommended from the committee.
When we see it, I think the point at which we figure that it's reasonable to say, look, we have a program document in our budget that says we're putting our money where our mouth is. You want to know what's important to Ithaca. Sure, you can read our thing, but you can also see how we spend our money. That's probably not fully realized until we get to the 2013-2014 budget. All right, we still figure with the strategic visioning piece coming online in this coming year, and then this budgetary component of it through that, right? We're probably not looking at a fully rational, all the way working program until the 13-14 budget, but that's kind of where we're at in the development of it now. I feel like we got a good start this past year, this council, and a broader process and more attention to that this coming year to keep it moving. There it is. Questions?
I truly do not understand what you mean by program identity, on how much money we spend on reading or different types of budgets, or...
The idea, I mean, this was the thing this is where we started all the way back when this group got started 14 months ago, 15 months ago now. Folks were saying, we just keep spending money the way we spent money just because we spent money that way before. We don't have any way of figuring out, well, where do we want to spend our money? What's important to us? What's working? What's not working? And so forth. That's what I'm talking about. That'll all take, we'll need to have the strategic vision in place, I think, before we know what really is important to us, and therefore how would we allocate our resources. That's what I'm talking about. But this budget, when the board has to make really hard budget decisions, this is a process that should really be able to support that, right? Because it'll say, here's what's important to us, and therefore here's how we're going to allocate our resources, right? And we'll be able to also say with the balanced scorecard approach, and Dr. Brown can speak to this way better than either of us can, I'm sure. But it allows you to say, okay, how are the programs doing that? How are they getting us to where we want to go for learning, right? And therefore, should we keep investing in them or not keep investing in them? So,
And that's going to come under the strategic,
As part of that process.
right, and that's why I think you're not really going to see a fully functional budget as part of that whole process until the 2013-14 budget, right?
A fully functional program evaluation.
Because Leslie's work with the strategic visioning piece is just going to be coming online now, and then we put the balance, you know what I'm saying? So the important pieces, I think, to put in place this coming year are, let's get everybody better at talking about the budget at all. Like, we made some small steps toward this. We made some good steps, I think, this past year in terms of buildings working through their budgets a little bit better. We all know there's more work that needs to be done there. This Budget Advisory Council, we think, helps to flesh out some of those big ideas really well and work through some of the stuff in a reasonable dialoguing kind of way. And that's what we think is good work for the next year going forward. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Chris?
Thank you guys for doing this. I just had one question, because you said it talks about what's important. So what does what's important to us look like versus what's effective? Will we link all that together?
That's where I think the strategic visioning and this program evaluation piece will all come together. You want to get that you said?
Say your question one more time for me.
Because what I heard was we would talk about the budget process because we spend money on what we just spend money, but we'll spend money on what's important to us.
Sure.
At the end of the day, the taxpayers want to know what's effective. Is our money well spent? So we need to be able to communicate, yes, this was important to us and it was effective, so we're spending the money well. How we, and really my question is, we will always want to do that. What does that look like from this group?
That is the evaluation piece. I mean, once we land on our mission and vision and values, then there'll be strategies, and then there'll be outcome measures. Those outcome measures can be something we track and measure ourselves up against. And frankly, any budget initiative or reallocation of resources should be directed towards our goals or objectives that are part of the strategic plan. So it'll be an easy connection and tie what we do out of this committee to what we said we want to be.
And this committee will work hand in hand with that process.
Sure.
And so it's hard to envision what could this be because we've never done it in this district, but some of the resources that we found included student-based budgeting, which focus primarily on urban school districts, but they have a way of allocating dollars per type of student. Like students have a weighted average in terms of how many resources they need to be able to be effective at learning. There's also one, let's see, district decentralization and site-based budgeting. So, I mean, we found about 6 reports that provided different approaches and case studies, and none of them were an obvious fit, but they definitely expanded our thinking about what's possible. And it's this process of first getting clear on the vision, and along the way having people think specifically about the budgeting related to the vision that will build something that fits the Ithaca City School Districts and will be informed by what other people have built in other parts of the country. So it's doable, even though we just don't know what it's going to look like exactly.
Yeah, vision needs to inform the budget process versus the other way around.
Yeah.
Instead of the budget process handcuffing the vision. And that's how we're going to look at it.
And I'll just sort of channel my inner Brad here for a second. And so one of the things that Brad, I think, will remind folks, and I know others in the community, will say, well, we've had budget advisory councils before. Like, this is part of the pendulum swing that's happened here in Ithaca, right? We have more people involved, we have less people involved. We have more people involved, we have less people involved. I think what would be different this time is not just more people involved, but have that involvement being really strategic, actually. And I know people have talked about moments when we've been more strategic than we have been lately. Like, what was that? Somebody who was, Judy, you would know, what was that called? The continuum thing that they had years back. You guys, Judy, you were, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was called the continuum or something like that. And that was another version of it, right? So, like, there have been bits and pieces in our history to do this. I think the promise of this is after doing that all really well and coherently move forward with that. So, we could get trapped in, oh yeah, we did that, yeah, we tried it, we abandoned it, or, you know, and now, so I think it's mindful, especially for the board, to be aware that there are folks in the community who said, yeah, did that before.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that, and I think the promise of this is to be considerably better than past efforts.
Now, Sarah, you stepped up and you facilitated these meetings since I was there, and not all of them, but many of them. The vision for the advisory council would be facilitated by the district. It would be more community-based. It would be more of a higher level, higher level involvement by district personnel.
Well, I
within
think,
this to
great
run
great
these
question.
meetings.
How's the council actually going to do its work? And I think that one of the pieces to our success this past year was effective facilitation, so that meetings really got things accomplished and people wanted to come back and there was trust building, and I am willing to continue in a facilitator role, if not all the time, part of the time, I mean, where I'm needed. The other piece, though, that really has to happen is the convener role, which is what Josh did very well. It's not glamorous, but you know, you've got to set the dates and do the agendas and get the minutes and make sure the minutes go out and, you know, keep people on task. We did some of that together. It helps have a buddy system, and it's that piece that Dr. Brown is willing to take on and have staff people do. It seems to me that it's pretty similar to what you'll probably be doing with the Strategic Visioning Council. So there's a bit of a replication of effort there, just a different content focus.
But eventually, so there's a Strategic Visioning Council that you're going to set up. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So we'd also have to set up a budget advisory council.
And it will all be facilitated by myself and the executive team. I know Ms. Elman and Dr. Myers are over in the back knowing who those people would be. But I see us as an executive team facilitating these two very important groups that are going to have some connections and overlap.
But, you know, we're going to have to discuss this and designate, oh yes, we will indeed, you know, the board is designating that we will have a budget advisory council and what.
But this is, the way it's been described, is more of a superintendent's budget advisory group than it is a board committee or council of sorts.
With the ad hoc committee, we eventually had to have a board resolution regarding that committee. I believe.
Right, because that was a committee of the board. I think this is a different model.
Right, so I'm just trying to clarify what we're talking about here. So this is more a superintendent's budget advisory group. Okay. All right.
With board members appointed, you know, at least one from finance, and preferably, I mean, it's great to have 2 or 3 or 4 participating at times, and it might be when there's specific topics.
And these are open public meetings, so anyone can come.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? Is it more?
This is more of
More a closed group.
yeah.
I'm asking. So this is more of a closed group.
Well, they're public meetings, so they're public meetings and they're open in that respect. I think.
What are they participating?
I think.
The previous ones were public meetings because they were board meetings, but if you have an advisory committee, it can be by invitation. Not saying you could do this, but it doesn't have to be a public meeting, it can be by invitation only. It does go against the process, what I hear you all say, in terms of inclusion and having much more stakeholder groups participate. But the idea being, if it's not a board committee, then we don't need to sort of announce to, then you wouldn't have to go through all that process.
Just trying to clarify what we're talking about here.
Not anyone just should the EILC, though they could.
They could, sorry. So, I mean, it's a standing group who's, you know, you hope people are, the expectation is that folks are going to come and come back. Right, that it's not just a rotating cast of characters depending on what the topic is that month. But yeah.
So I'm gonna look to you, Dr. Brown, to drive this, and we'll discuss.
So is the strategic planning committee a council also?
That's different, and we're going to be talking much about strategic planning going forward. There's several groups. There are action teams. There's a group that convenes for 2 or 3 days. I mean, it's hard to get that into a soundbite, but that's a process more than a group. And there'll be different groups that will be meeting, which all have a significant charge that will be part of the overall picture.
Judy, it's going to be easier to just be on the board. So.
Well, I still, you know, have questions. So is EILC an advisory council?
In the way it's formed now, yes, it is.
Very much so.
An advisory council.
It's actually a leadership council.
The leadership council.
What does that mean?
Equity and Inclusion Leadership Council. I'm just telling you what the name states.
Right.
So you can consider it to be an advisory council, but the name is a leadership council. It's a team of community leaders to help provide some input on equity and
Again, not a
inclusion.
public meeting, but an invite, and it's been chosen from various stakeholders.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember too that the legal alternative to public is confidential. So it's not,
Yeah.
right? None of these meetings are confidential in the sense that the subject of the meeting is going to be hidden from public view, right? But,
It's a membership.
yeah, right.
The minutes, and we're going to be talking about the work that's happening there.
That transparency, was really useful. A lot more. I heard from a lot of people how much they appreciated seeing stuff up on the web and so forth. And I would make a pitch. This wasn't. I got to just say on a personal note, this wasn't my favorite issue to advance as a board member. I did it partly out of loyalty to a board member who had to leave the board. I said, well, I'll pick up the ball for you. I really do think it's helpful, really helpful for somebody on the board to see budget process as their mission. So that's something to do. And so I'd urge somebody to kind of step forward and say, I want to help see this piece through.
Very good. Any other? Josh, we'll leave it at that. Thanks again, Josh, for everything. And Sarah, thanks for your efforts over the last.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure.
So Dr. Brown, on to goals and, I'm looking at goals and metrics.
And I'll invite
Dr.
Mr.
Brown.
Moon to We've already talked much about the strategic planning process, and that will be in the next 6, 7 months, maybe a year of work that we're going to embark upon, which will land on a revised vision statement, values, belief systems. We'll have those things written down. We may not change our values in our beliefs, but we'll have a formal discussion about those things, and it may result in us having some different or the same objectives, which are similar to what we have now called priorities. So with that said, knowing that we're going to go through that process for next year, as a staff, we looked at the existing priorities and goals of the board, and we thought to move us towards that strategic thinking that we're going to be using for the next year, we thought we would add some metrics, not strategies, but some metrics for us to look at to hold ourselves accountable for these particular goals and priorities. Now, and these are just recommendations. I know we're going to have a much deeper discussion during board development about goals for the year and priorities, but we wanted to take this opportunity to share with you what we're thinking as far as metrics, the things that tie and relate to the goals and priorities, and then share with you our first draft of the balanced scorecard approach. I mean, we talked a lot about this balanced scorecard, but we haven't shown you what it could look like. So these metrics that are in front of you are just draft metrics. There's some things that we put down that we gave a best shot at initially. And Mr. Moon and I have pulled together various looks at what would be a balanced scorecard for you, so something you wouldn't be able to pull up at any given time, anywhere from any device, and click on a button and see where we are with relations to an individual metric that is again then tied to one of our goals and priorities for the board. And we'll just walk you through some of these. And again, we aren't married to any of these metrics right now. It's just a first shot at it. We thought we would share with you what it could look like as we become more strategic in how we reach some of our goals and priorities. Where do you want to start? Want to start with the culture goal?
Sure. So again, just in some attempt to measure what we value. So apply metrics to, we value the most the priorities that the goals that the board sets. So we've listed the priorities here. We've tried to establish a metric, in this case to priority 1, which has to do with fostering a safe and respectful and environment of high expectations and results. So what does safe environment look like? What does high expectations look like? What does culture in general look like? We can do some of those measures with our absentee rate. We can do some of those metrics with daily attendance. High yield instructional strategies is our administrators begin to do organized walkthroughs. what are those walkthroughs showing us? Are we indeed using high yield instructional strategies in the classroom? Are we using more than one of those, and to what extent are we using those?
If I can stop you there, next week's PDI Institute, we're going to be focusing on high yield instructional strategies and levels of engagement. And hopefully coming out of that, our administrators and about 140 teachers will have a much better understanding of what those things are and how to implement them in classrooms. So as we're doing our informal walkthroughs next year, if we're capturing that data about what we see, it will show up here. And we've set some targets for what we would like to see. They're stretch goals. And you'll see, and this data right now isn't live, and I mean, we're just putting it up there to show you that.
At least the Board of Ed Balance Scorecard here, this is sort of a proof of concept, if you will. When we formally adopt metrics, then it would behoove us at that time to go ahead and formally design what this dashboard would look like. Again, we can post this on the web so that anyone has access to this at any particular time. In this case, the target being 12 targets, we have 12 buildings, so obviously this isn't the number of buildings that reach the target. The nice thing is that if you see an area in red that has some concern, all right, so what buildings are meeting that? With a click, you can then drill in to now see percent chronically absent and what does that look like at each one of the buildings. And so you can dig deeper to get to what building do we need to focus in on. Is there a particular department that we need to focus in on that's causing us not to achieve that? Is there a flu outbreak that's affecting our attendance, so on? And that's what some of those drill downs might be able to show us. And there's different ways of showing that. You can show it in straight charts. You can show it using red light, green light. You scroll over, this would have to do with demographic distribution of suspensions and so on. So this gets to that safe environment and the number of suspensions overall that we have. And these are, it's 10 buildings out of 12. Met this particular metric, and again, is that a green light, a yellow light? We can set the thresholds on what we would value there and what we would want to see. Some of the metrics dealing with communications, the number of hits on our website, the number of times that we have articles in a newspaper, or so on and so forth. And we can simply track those. A ticker is one of those options. So if we were shooting for, the
10,000 tweets.
10,000 tweets or number of website hits per quarter, our goal is 400,000. Let's say we got 380,000. We can control whether or not this highlights green or red to, again, catch your eye if you didn't meet that particular metric.
Let's get to this equity one and sort of walk through what some of that data looks like.
The equity one, we know that this is a high importance. We know that when I presented the equity report card here, we talked about presenting it in a different fashion than a printout. And so the nice thing about this, when we do some of those drill-ins, if there is a metric here that catches my eye and I say, oh, we're clearly in the red with the percentage of FERPL compared to overall enrollment, if you click on that, it will take you to a course scores analysis, and we can say, I want to look at AP scores, and it'll show us a dashboard that is all about the demographics of what our AP classes look like. So,
Can we go back? Because I got lost.
yeah, when we're at the balanced scorecard, the goal here.
What is a balanced scorecard? That's first.
Go ahead.
It's a fancy name for a data dashboard, or maybe data dashboard is a fancy name also. But here's our data in a very dynamic way. Instead of a data binder, which would have this, and I think we put data binders together for years, all that data is here. And we use that red light, green light, yellow light as an indicator to show where we are right now. We never want to be in the red. We want to be in the green, to be very simple. And if you're somewhere in the yellow, you're approaching your target but not quite there. We've done that with all of our metrics and everything that we value, we're putting in this kind of format. That can be in the form of a stoplight, a chart, a line graph, a dial, depending on how you wish to see it. But that red light, green light, yellow light is the scorecard of sorts that we wanted to be monitoring. And what's good about this is it's dynamic data, it's updated quarterly, or we can do it even more so. And it's individualized. You can click down and drill down in any particular area you wish to know more about.
Right, and that's the big point. The binder that we got that was this thick, that Dr. Myers, he put those together for us all the time. And you really felt like this was, it was great, but it seemed like old data. And am I really going to plow through all this, trying to find what's going on at Enfield? How am I going to do that in a fairly quick two-step way, or really just depending on what do I want to find out about what's going on in that school that I'm just trying to look up.
And we're catching it to strategic thinking, because if you look at our priorities now as written, one wouldn't know how we're measuring communication. With this approach, you'll know that we're looking at website hits or the number of tweets or whatever else we decide, and there you'll know how we're meeting our goals. And Tim is going to get into equity or culture in a second, equity. And we know that enrollment patterns say a lot about equity. When we get into AP enrollments and honors enrollments and Regents levels enrollments, you'll see some inequities. and it'll be very clear by the red light or yellow light or green light.
If you could think about this from, we send home quarterly report cards for our students, and how wonderful it would be for a parent if they saw unsatisfactory on a particular element on that report card, if they could click in and find out why that was unsatisfactory. Did he not do his homework? Did he get a low quiz grade? Is he not paying attention in class? Was there high absence? That's what we're able to do now with the board goals. If we're not meeting an equity goal and we see a red light or a red speedometer over here, we can click on that speedometer and find out why it's red. And drill in and find out what element is causing that metric not to be what we want it to be. And it's the same way for our students that we, right now we do that conversation, parent-teacher conference or an open house or what have you, and this will be a transparent way for the community to come in and say, where are we relative to our goals? In the future, it may have to do with our budget. And one of our goals is resources, and maybe that is where we would eventually see some program priorities. Where are we spending our money? And that drill-in might be available.
We're working with administrators, and we're trying to shift the conversation around data. Instead of just giving you data to judge yourself or someone else on, we're asking folks to come up with the right question and then go find the answer. So I'm coming with the question. I am very interested in enrollment pattern for purple. I struggle with that, free and reduced lunch price students. And so I'm wondering about enrollment patterns. Where are they sitting in our middle and high schools? So that's a question I have, and then I can go to our balanced scorecard and find them. Can you walk us through that?
All we have to do from the balanced scorecard is part of our equity goal. I can simply click on that. It drills into course type analysis. So from here, I could select to look at AP or honors or regents or our blended classes. And in this case, it tells me the number of, we had 230 students enrolled in science AP classes. And what we see down here is gender counts. How many of those were male? How many of those were female? And what we see here are the number of free and reduced price lunch students that were in those classes. And so...
In which classes? In English?
In this case, it's in English. If we wanted to look at science, we'd simply select science and let it refresh. So we had 140 males in our science AP classes, and 8 of them were free and reduced price lunch. If we look at females, we had 90, 4 of them were free and reduced. So out of 230 students in science AP, 12
and
free and reduced.
And they'll show Regents courses in the enrollment patterns there. That's my next question as the high school principal.
Sure, we can look at, we'll stay in the same department, we can look at science, and then we can look at Regents classes. And that's what the enrollment pattern looks like in a Regents class. And this is based on final scores at the end of last year, June's scores.
So Tim, do me a favor, go up to the top where it says course level and put Regents up there for as well.
And again, so you're looking at 1,237 course scores in science department. 645 males, 592 females, and again, your purple count.
So, this is, you're at the beginning stage, but
Yes.
are you bringing, are you gonna, and when, I bet you're going to, bring test scores and grades and whatever?
We have most of that. We have grades in, I believe now, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I set up on this too, if I wanted to look at grade distribution for like science, if I click on science, this chart would change from, telling me the overall enrollment, and now it tells me how those kids did in science. So I know out of those 1,200 scores, there were 64 Fs and 49 Ds and 450 As. These NAs
Break that out by free and reduced price?
Not on this particular one, but if we click in farther and I set it up here to click in farther, it loads to here. And now I can drill into a particular building, we can look at a particular school. Again, I can do A's, I have demographics here, so we can begin to look at demographics.
Is this school tool? Is this because it's
This is because of school tool, but this is a separate product.
a separate product, but the data is being drawn from school tools?
Yeah, this is our balanced scorecard. Now, we're looking at an instructional management system that will now allow that building level principal to get student names, drill down even further, run reports about class enrollment. I mean, it's a different level of investigation. This is more of a public view and a board view,
Right.
and a quick hitter of a progress report. We're looking at tools that will allow us to dig even deeper.
And is that, you're looking at it with the goal of where are you at on
This
that?
is, we have this, this is a concept for you tonight.
Right.
It's part of our strategic planning process, and we're ready to roll this out.
Can one thing that I unfortunately sometimes I get stopped by a word or whatever. So I understood the word, if I can go back, dashboard and dynamic, and I got all that. The one word that I'm getting stopped at, maybe you can help explain, is balanced. Where's that word coming from?
I don't know. It's just what we call it. We can call it whatever we want to call it. It's just known.
Well, you've used it
Yeah,
quite a bit.
yeah. We just call it the balanced scorecard, and that's just the word and the terminology that is common.
Balanced, assessed,
That is common in school districts and businesses that are using this type of approach. Yeah, it's called balanced scorecard.
I got
It's
dashboard.
jargon, and now that I know that confuses some folks, maybe we need to look at it.
Well, I'm looking to,
Yeah, we
I guess I'm thinking I'm probably nobody, I'm weird.
Well, Jay, you're
I'm
looking
for
at,
some balance.
you're looking at imbalances, so.
It's actually relatively simple. The goal is to try to balance what is actually taking place with what you want to take place. So that's what the scorecard does. So when I call it a balanced scorecard, what do we say we're doing, what are we actually doing? And it gives us the
imbalance.
the imbalance in that
I
respect.
get you.
So, but I think it's a poor choice of terms, I agree. But it is education speaking. Well,
That's why I'm not going to
educate us a
defend
little
it.
bit.
It's been ingrained in my head, so I would say it.
Tim, can you go back to the other page, or the one, the bottom far right there for a second? Yeah, that one. No.
Oh, the analysis? Yeah.
So there's an example, and I know there's going to be a bunch of conversations. These are a couple of preliminary metrics that are going to be doing. I'm hoping there's going to be some conversation, because at one point in time it seems very student-centered, even while, for example, last year Mr. Peacock wanted to make sure the culture had, talking about our faculty and staff as well. And so how do we measure some of those forms of engagement and culture? But this would be an example for me where raw numbers are helpful, but I also need things in context, and not to make students percentages, but percentages help. So, for example, it'd be helpful for me to know what is the percentage of FERPL students in the district, and I think I know this at the high school, and then what's the percentage of FERPL students in our Regents classes, right? So the raw numbers are real, but if there's a way in which we can show some of that vision, I think that's where we start seeing
And
some of the imbalance. Otherwise, it's decontextualized for most folks, right?
yeah, and when this is one of the things that when I'm building a dashboard, I have to envision how is the end user
Right.
going to, in other words, where are they going to want to click? What are they going to want to compare when they see? So when I started jumping into something like this, yeah, these numbers don't mean anything without some context of what the percentage of ethnicity is in that particular building.
Right.
And then I said, well, that's nice, but if I wanted to click on Black or African American ethnicity and then drill in, again, now it tells me the percentage of A's that were had by that particular subgroup and the percentage of B's. If I wanted to do this over here and I said, how many Bs, what was the ethnicity breakdown of every student that scored a B somewhere? Well, now I have percentages that 68.9% of all Bs were had by white students, but they make up 72.5% of all the students that are enrolled. There's some discrepancy there. The biggest one that I, again, playing with the data that jumped out were these NAs. An NA in the system gets generated if there is no final score. And we see a lack of a final score in AIS classes because they're not graded on a 0 to 100 scale. We see those in special ed classes, resource room, they don't generate final scores, so they show up as NA. So as we're looking at different ethnicities and we see a large percentage of NA, we know there's a large percentage of AIS and special ed within that particular subgroup. That becomes alarming. And then, so, like even this chart down here, I said, well, looking at it by FERPL is nice, but I said I might want to look at it by special ed. So I set up a drill down. Well, now I can look at it by those that are identified and not identified. And what if I wanted to do both? Well, I'll set up a drill in that we can now do it by FERPL and identified and select. So again, trying to figure out how somebody might use this data, and can we give them a pie chart, or because pie charts are better for percentages, but a bar graph is better for raw counts, and then we have metrics that are on here. Could it be a simple speedometer or a simple just color chart of some sort? And again, I'm open to any and all suggestions when it comes to the design of those. Yeah.
I have a question, hence a couple of years. Aren't we going to be required to see these kids in AIS and resource rooms evaluated for those classes and those teachers in the new APPR?
I don't think it's on the docket for those because they're not credit bearing and they typically don't directly lead to an exam.
Okay.
As right now, it has to, the course that contributes to the new APPR has to be one that ends in a state assessment, so either Regents or the 3 through 8 testing. So AIS class doesn't directly parallel. They have been talking about if I'm getting reading help that contributes to an ELA, is there a percentage that might be applied? And they're still working their statistical magic to figure out if if they can come up with a strong enough correlation to say it should be 70% or 30% or 40%, and they haven't let that happen.
Well, I went last week and they were talking about it.
Yeah,
So
it's
they want to do it.
At our state conference, the state ed department was there. And were making some suggestions, but really they're taking a look at the data and how strong the correlation is, what kind of demographic breakdown, how far are they going to go. So are they going to stop at FERPL? Are they going to break it down by eth? Are they going to include ESOL and so on and so forth? And so they're still in discussions. And again, the weighting, how much are you going to weight if your class has so many ESL students in it, or what kind of weighting are they going to be applied to that?
Sean Ferguson.
Tim, you continue to make the data cat an important position in our district, so this is the very thing I think that I was looking for. I know that Mr. Harris has been looking for these kind of being able to manipulate data in different ways and be able to visualize it and see it in context with various things. So that's all extremely helpful, and I'm excited to see what we can do in the next couple months. The question I have is, now that I've just seen this, right, there's a number of questions, comments, suggestions, probably much more information I needed to have for me. So the expectation for tonight is just to introduce this. We're going to come back to it at some point in time, is to set up private meetings. What are you looking for tonight?
Engage in some of this conversation on board development and then subsequent board meetings, we're hoping. I mean, we just want to show you that we can now find the data to accommodate board priority and goals.
So in order to keep this moving, but would it be helpful if we have comments, suggestions, questions, contact you, both, I guess.
Contact.
I think maybe step one is formally adopting metrics to measure, and then
goals to measure.
Goals to measure and metrics to those goals.
That's the work that we have to do, just to reevaluate our goals, which are called priorities over there. Are they priorities? Are they goals? Are the language going to change at all? And then we can build metrics to back up. Well, do our words mean things? And we've talked about that in the past. Do our priorities, do our goals really have meaning? And the way you do that is to assign metrics and you measure it, and we see if indeed we are reaching our goals. Right? That's the plan. And Jay, you have?
2 questions. Is RTI got a place to come in and be displayed in this in some fashion?
As far as,
Well, breaking out the different levels of RTI and then slicing and dicing them.
we hadn't talked about that, but we can figure out a way to display that data, because we're capturing that data, so.
You are capturing that. Yeah, I got it. You must be.
Have to. Right.
So yeah, we can display it. If we have that data, if I'm not mistaken, we can display it, and we can probably either be in the form of a dial, a stoplight, a chart, or what have you.
But I mean, that'll be, you want to be seeing that
Some shifts.
yeah, right. Let's balance it. And then the other question I had was, is in the future, or how far away, I guess is better, more specific question, how far away are we from being able to see data for an individual teacher?
We need an instructional management system up and running to dig that deep and to connect it to a student. I mean, we could do it as rather cumbersome now, but when you have access to that level of data through an instructional management system, then you'll be able to get to that place.
And who's the we you're talking about?
We have access, you said.
Because I'm not-
Administrators
I would say, I'm not sure that's ever going to be public
No,
information.
never, never public. No, absolutely not. But administrators.
Yeah, administrators, and right now,
The board, but
we can't, it's cumbersome to do.
It is a bit cumbersome. I will tell you that, like, this core scores, although it's not displayed on the screen, teacher name is in the data that's behind the scenes. If I wanted to add a filter for teachers, that's certainly a 15-minute process to this dashboard. Now, again, as we do admin retreat and we review our new version of the data binder, is that going to be something that, I don't know, but the data is there. The data is available.
why wouldn't we be getting, we've got to be, that's got to be there.
And that's the question. We're already shifting to asking the right question. Now we're working to put the tools in place to get us the answer.
Go ahead, son.
Yeah, I'm with Jay. I mean, that has to be there. That, you know, I've been on the board for a few years now, and I first saw areas that we need to improve presented on a equity report card and paper. And now I show areas that were weakened, presented on this impressive dynamic thing. But what I want to get to is the point where I'm not just looking at it and saying, oh wow, see that group of students, we're not serving them well. I want to get to those things that correct those charts that are imbalanced or whatever the word is. So it's great that we have a new way of looking at it, but the equity report card showed us a lot of the same things. That, you know, it wasn't as fancy, but you know, I want to talk about, you know, addressing those and doing things differently, you know, on the ground to help our students get to where they need to go. I'm not super excited about this type of thing. I'm more excited about, you know, the stuff that may be happening this next week, you know, and that's
what we're leaving out of the strategies. I mean, we've gone from the objectives to the metrics, and we left out the strategies. The strategies will be the things that will move the data. And things like the PDI Institute next week, the walkthrough process, we have administrators going in and looking for high-yield instructional strategies. Those will be the strategies that we hope would change the red lights to yellow and then to green. So that is the work we'll be talking about also.
After this year, we will have data on individual teachers who administer the APPR from 4th to 8th grade, and the data will come, and it will come in a number. And if a parent wants to foil it, they can get not the whole assessment of the teacher or anything like that, but a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1 is top and 4 is bottom.
Are you telling us that?
I'm telling you that, that's, yeah.
Was that information they shared with you when you went to the workshop?
Yeah.
Judy did go to a workshop regarding APPR put on by
NISBA.
NISBA, right?
It was And it's on board, the thing that comes, the paper on the front page, some of it. Some of it was a little scary, some of it was,
Brave new world, Judy. Thanks.
Yes, it is.
So 1 through 4 is going to be public information.
yeah, if you foil it,
If
that's what
if
they
it's
said,
foiled.
if you foil it.
So I completely agree with Seth. I think one of the things, the one reason I am excited about this is because if you have dynamic building leaders, they'll be able to use this information to inform their strategies to do better work. And so I think the real question is, data is nothing unless you actually put it to use, right? And so we have to find ways, I think like you're advocating for, to actually make this live and usable. The other thing for me is I know, Tim, that you're a real big numbers cat, but someone who does qualitative research as well. I'm wondering if we're going to be able to find some ways in which we capture some of that data, student comments, feedback, whatever the case may be. I don't know what that would look like visually, but there's got to be a way to sort of match the numbers with the words, right?
We've begun conversations with our non-instructional side of the house, so transportation and our nursing and Denise and food service about what would metrics in your department look like. And one of the things that has come up from the transportation folks was parental surveys. So if we can figure out what we want to measure from a parental survey, we do the survey. We can certainly post the survey results or include that as one of the metrics of their overall satisfaction, and again drill down what would it take to become for the parents to be more satisfied with this particular service, so on. We are looking at those kind of qualitative metrics.
We have all sorts of hands raising. Dr. Brown, you've had 20 minutes plus, but we'll do a few more questions and then we'll keep working, right? Kind of go ahead.
I just wanted to just submit a friendly reminder about the data that we've been able to see using School Tool IQ. Do you guys remember the spider kind of graph that Tim displayed maybe, I don't know, a year ago? Do you remember that? That's and Tim, you can speak to this a little better, but that's the School Tool IQ product that allows us to do what you're asking him to do. He created, I believe you call them flat files. And I don't know how dynamic it is in terms of it being automatic.
It's not automatic.
Right.
You try and develop a query that you can repeat so that it becomes doable to do all of these metrics, not only for the board, but for a building and for a department, and to be able to pull that data every quarter to be able to reflect on it, to give feedback that isn't so lagging. This is what the first quarter looked like, and so on and so forth. It's not automated. It is something that we do have to set up. The School Tool IQ product really allows us to mine data out of our student management system. And I would say right now we're strong on that. We're going to get stronger with the assessment piece, with the other product that's coming on board. We've got to look at what can we pull out of WinCap for the resources and the budgetary, and can we establish these same sorts of things on that side of the house. And I'd love to put IQ up and let you just play in IQ, but the problem with IQ and the benefit is it draws all the way down to the student level. And there's no way to put securities on that to prevent somebody from drilling right down to it. And you don't want that. When you're looking at discipline data, nobody but that parent and that student needs to know who was suspended, but and again, it's fine for administrators to look at, but it's not something that the general public, FERPA just wouldn't allow. So we need to build things like this that allows us to still be transparent, and this is the state of affairs where we are, but still protect that student identity.
Jay, one more?
Just a small comment. I think it'd be really cool because someone mentioned food service, and they have, I know from their reports, they have data up the wazoo. And one of the biggest problems that they face is misconceptions out in the public about what kids are eating and not eating, and it would be, and so I don't think it would be that hard for you to get it. I don't know if it goes in the dashboard, but somewhere, but that dynamic thing about what the kids are eating and not eating, and
I think that is one of her metrics. She's already sat down.
I'm sure that,
And when we've discussed when we roll out a new food and we offer it the next time, how many of the kids that tried it the first time continue on. So, I mean, again, we want to offer healthy meals, and are they being eaten? and Denise is very good with that. She's selecting good measures, so I look forward to rolling those out.
That'll be cool.
So good, Jay. We're going from balance to up the wazoo, so I think that's a good place to stop. Are we good, Dr. Brown? This is a good introduction to some of our work ahead. And Tim, again, thanks for really getting one more piece of the puzzle in place. So, we good?
I do have one more question.
You're not joking, Jay. You have another question.
I
Go ahead.
do. In the handout that was given, does it mention data? And each school site-based council will meet monthly to review data, school improvement center targets. Is that what's?
It's not happening now.
No?
We're having a conversation, we're going to be having a conversation with the admin team about redefining or reimagining our site-based council and what they should be doing and how often they should be meeting. What we know is that good teams at schools that include multiple stakeholders meet monthly or quarterly to review school improvement plans or data. This is a way to look at the data. How often are those teams coming together to talk about the work? So we're looking, again, this is a draft measure, and this fresh off the presses, so we're going to be rolling something like that out to monitor that data though. Because right now, when we say we're looking at data or incorporating data, what does that mean? This is one way it's going to get down to the building.
That was going to be my only comment. It's got the actionable data. We have to react to it, just like Seth was saying. So that's a good piece to put in there.
Very good. Good discussion, thanks. On to number D, that's I'm looking at the board meeting calendar, which apparently has been revised again, and we've looked at this several times, passed it a few times, I think. But we have a revised calendar now, and this...
Do we need to vote on it?
Yeah, I think we do.
So moved by Jay True as presented.
Second.
And we're set on these dates. Nothing else needs to be. I'm not sure what the change was. Oh,
The changes are in bold, just so you
Oh,
know.
okay.
Changes are in
Yep.
bold, and they were to avoid the winter break and spring break.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So this is probably much more of a preface than anything else, but this is phenomenal for me. But as a visual learner, I'd also love to see the calendar on the back. And so if there's a way in which, next time, for example, I don't know what those breaks are, so if I can see them in context, it'd be helpful. So whenever we do these things, that's just a comment.
Appreciate the comment. Because yeah, this is always tough for me to schedule out next April 5th, but always glad to do that. So,
Seth's not here.
but we have enough. All in favor? That's everyone. Thanks. Thanks for the last look at the calendar for next year. It is important to get it set, and that's one of our jobs. And we're going to move on to a long list of policies. So I'm going to ask Sean to step up and talk a little bit. If you could.
I will
lead us. Can you lead us through these?
I can. I think I can do so in relatively quick fashion. I'm going to ask Dr. Myers and Judy Hoffman to join us here because they can probably speak much clearer to a number of these policies that are on the agenda. But if we can, we'll just go down through them. If people have questions, we'll do them one by one.
Sean, second readings, yes?
These are, if I'm not mistaken, they're all second readings. These have all been on the policy committee. The newly constituted policy committee has not met yet, but we've had some email conversations between Judy Maxwell, between Pat Wasloo and myself, along with Judy Hoffman and Dr. Myers and a couple of other folks. So we've tweaked these. I am greatly indebted to Kimberly for her research, for her pushing, for her proofing, for a whole host of things. And so I think we're getting a handle on our policies. Just as a quick note, we're going to be having a policy meeting
August 2nd.
August 2nd, at which point in time we're also going to have a conversation about contracting through some sort of service to be able to maintain our policy book as opposed to what we've been doing right now. So, but we'll get to that later on.
Which I'm not sure what we're doing right now, so that's the part of the problem, right?
Our policies are in somewhat of disarray. That's the reality. And we're trying to get our hand on it. This is the first year of the policy committee. We just finished our first year. We're trying to get our hands on policies, make sure that we're up to date, make sure that we don't have anything missing, and then revising policies as needed needed as things arise. And so these policies that are on the agenda this evening, nearly all of them arise out of the annual updating of the Student Code of Conduct Manual, along with the Student Code of Conduct Manual of detailed procedures that Dr. Myers and others, I know committees have painstakingly gone through. And so some of these you've seen before, they may not require too much conversation, but some may, so we might just go through each of them and begin with 5420, if we could. And policy 5420 was approved by the policy committee, passed, went through its first reading. The changes you see are in italics. And so it is as listed here. And for the home audience, policy 5420 is student health services. That's the policy title. And so just a minor change of wording, and that's all it is for this policy.
Second reading, right?
Second reading, correct. So all these are going to require a vote.
Right, and it's been moved and seconded prior, so this is, it's really a question of if there are any questions at this time. So, all in favor? That's everyone here with Seth.
Out.
Seth just out of the room, so he is absent, but we do have 5.
So that's policy 5420. Next.
I just wanted to be clear that this one was not code of conduct related.
Yes.
Oh, just to be clear.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Many of the policies that we're addressing are,
But this one was not. Correct.
Very good, thank
Just want to make
you.
sure.
The next policy is policy 5020, equal education opportunities, harassment of students. This is the same thing. I have a addition.
Dr. Eversley-Bravo, did you want me to jump in while you're looking?
Oh, I know where it is. I'm waiting to see if anyone has any.
Oh,
I'm waiting.
okay.
If no board members have questions, then we're going to keep moving.
Oh, perfect.
I do. Where it says safeguarding the rights of all students to
Give
learn.
us page of replication. First page, second page, third page.
First page, first sentence.
Yep.
Rights of all students to learn. Is there a better word than just learn? Or be? I mean, we're just dealing with learning in a safe environment, not being in.
I don't like being. I understand the question about learning. It's a wordsmithing thing. I think that's very similar to language we've used before about the responsibility of the district to teach folks.
I'm just worried about the hall, the cafeteria, and whatever.
Attend school?
Yeah, buses. We're very.
Well, no, attend or partake in school activity. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. To learn and.
Or as you're saying, to be in an environment that is free from discrimination.
To learn and.
Learn and be.
I know what you mean.
I know.
But if somebody comes up and talks about the bus, I don't know.
Preference, Dr. Myers, since this.
How about to learn and participate in an environment, to learn and function? I mean, I think the main goal of the district is for students to learn, so.
Okay.
I'd be inclined to keep it
I
as
would
is.
too.
Okay.
Other questions? For those, my addition, I think this is probably my error. I left out a word here. On the second page of the policy, it's the sentence that begins with "further the board recognizes." It's under,
Okay.
right? Further the board recognizes, there's nothing there. It should say further the board recognizes hazing, which is defined as any activity. So we need to add the word hazing there. Beyond that, I think that policy is all set.
Noted. Anything else? Kimberly's got it, I believe.
Yes, I got it.
Kimberly's got it, so I think we're good. All in favor? That's everyone. With Seth.
Where are we on to next? On my sheet here. Policy 5311.5, student dress code. This has gone through, I would probably, I don't know what I want to call it, a substantial rewrite, but it's taken out parts that were somewhat redundant and moved some things around, but nothing's been changed in terms of wording. It's just been some deletions and some moving of paragraphs. But it's almost as is from the first reading, so questions, comments?
Do we add jacket and ties yet? No.
No, we're close to that though. And busted around shoes, but we're...
What about uniforms?
Right.
There's just a case,
Yes.
if anyone read their updates, right, they're not even sure they can legally enforce uniforms in a public school.
Right.
Highlight that.
Private. Yep. Interesting. So, anything else with dress code? We're good, Sean. There's nothing here that's... Okay. All in favor? That's everyone?
You're all gonna make my day. Policy 5312.2. This is the gun-free and weapons-free school. This is a policy that had a pretty extensive subcommittee to work with Dr. Myers to help craft some of the language. There was a question from a number of community folks about a statement or a sentence that was inadvertently left out that's been put back in. There was a problem with the paragraphs that didn't read well. That is on the second page. That's been fixed for the most part. If you're asking me, the only recommendation I would give is on page 2. That paragraph, it says, in concert with a member of the executive team, within parentheses. I would take out the parentheses and use commas. I don't think we want that in parentheses. It's not like it's a secret, right? It's the school principal, in concert with a member of the executive team, has discretion to use short-term measures. It's taking it out of the parentheses, that's all. And then there's an extra quotation mark at the end of number 6. That's probably my formatting error. I make errors. That's why I pay for editors.
It's not Kimberly.
It's definitely not Kimberly.
Yeah, okay.
These are all me. She's got a couple months here.
And Sean, some accommodation is being made, for the incidents that, we dealt with, the inadvertent jackknife in a bag.
Absolutely.
From the weekend camping trip at Boy Scouts, it's in the bag. I didn't realize it. I went and handed it in to the principal, but I'm still...
Or we've had other situations where students have taken weapons from their homes and brought them to school intentionally, and before they could even get to the principal, they were caught with the weapon, so to speak, right? And they gave us no little room to even have that kind of, to promote that positive decision that young folks made. And so there's been a couple of things that have taken place. One, again, after the long committee work that Dr. Myers held, was trying to understand that we want to have a zero tolerance policy, but also to give our administrators and the admin team some flexibility for extenuating circumstances, as you just described with the young Boy Scout. Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Anything? Am I missing anything, Dr. Myers?
No.
No other questions? All in favor? Is everyone? Great.
5312.3, student tobacco possession and use. This has also gone through a couple of, it used to be, when we read it the first time, it was about 4 pages. A little bit of it was redundant. The policy calls for the superintendent to develop administrative regulations, and so we took out some of the redundancy. And we said that when the time comes, that the administrative team will put some of that redundancy into the actual regulations whenever that gets created. But for right now, the board is trying to, the proposal is for a prohibition of tobacco use among students and faculty, for that matter, on school grounds. Questions?
No more faculty smoking designated areas? Okay.
Actually, Sean, it's on school grounds, but we left in the part that's also off school property when it's a
School-sponsored event. That was correct. That did stay in.
Okay.
I would like to delete one of the bullet points, but I'd like to ask board members for what they think. It's the third from the bottom, many young tobacco users. We already mentioned that up top. It's the single most preventable cause of death. And I realize it's much more specific here, but it just seems to be somewhat redundant to me. So I would take it out. It's not something you normally find in a policy. So I would scratch that bullet, but beyond that...
I'm okay with scratching it.
Fine. No objection. All in favor? Is everyone?
Policy 5320R, it's actually not a policy, it's a regulation for student conduct on school bus. And this was also done with, not committee, but with the transportation folks, right? Drafted with those good folks. And I have no changes or edits.
Everyone okay? All right.
Yes.
Just the comment that when this passes, Mr. Ellis, our school transportation supervisor, will be posting this information on buses and making it very public, so our students and their families are aware of what this entails.
Well, just, how will it be posted? Just,
On buses?
I mean, just, you know, 2 pages, is it, you know, just gonna be?
Laminated sheets of paper, like how?
Well, you know,
Probably laminated, and then it'll also go home.
Okay, great. No, I just.
Backpack it.
Sure, okay. All in favor? Everyone, thanks.
Policy 5423 and 5423R, health services and medication policy. The board may remember, maybe it was a month ago, that Judy Hoffman came to us with some other folks and talked to us about things that we learned over the past year. I forget what the plan was called. Please help me. Say it again. Was it the Safe School
Oh, the
Plan?
Safe School District.
And the number of things that we've learned over the past year. So we've had some things that made us want to go back and revisit some policies. This was one to make sure that we are very clear about the administering of medication to students. And so there was a slight shift in italics, and I think that was about it, right? Am I missing something, Judy?
No, I think Kimberly did a great deal of help with this, and the content is basically the same, but again, the formatting, and it's much clearer and easily understood.
Absolutely.
Great. Appreciated her help with that a lot.
So this is both the policy and the regulations that get connected together, right? So 5423 and 5423R.
Okay. Good. All in favor? Is everyone?
Policy 5460, suspected child abuse and maltreatment. My only change from what we have here is the third paragraph. It says ICSD. We never use that in policies. It should say the district.
Yes, it's true.
But beyond that, as it's presented to you as is.
All in favor with the edit? Everyone?
Good?
Yes.
And now I'm done, so this all goes to, maybe I'm done. Yeah, right.
You're not done.
5310, this is the act, the policy 5310 is actually the student conduct manual. It's the thick thing that folks got here. So at this time, I have no edits or changes to that. We've been going around, and Dr. Myers and I know a whole group of folks have been going around this long enough. Beyond the changes that we made to the policies, the change that we just approved the policies will make their way into the, if they haven't already, will make their way into the code of conduct, and then that'll be the final thing to be printed in time to have the students by September. I know we made Dr. Myers a little nervous that we wouldn't get this done in time, but I think we're just meeting our printing deadline. So, questions, concerns, comments about the student conduct manual?
Simply don't make Dr. Myers nervous.
That's right.
That's we've all learned that.
Lesson learned.
Really. So we're good. All in favor? It's everyone.
The next one is the student conduct manual, detailed procedures. And so if this isn't a hefty enough document for you, we have this document which gives you a little more detail of the similar information. And so again, I have no changes, edits, or comments at this time, or the policy committee has no changes or edits or comments at this time.
Geez, I'm glad my kid graduated. I mean, this is tough.
And I will say, for those folks who are listening at home, this is a process that we go through every year. And so should there be something that's relatively glaring, this is not one of those things that stays on the books for years and years. We'll be right back here again come next May, if not next April, with the same process.
Right. And no questions regarding the procedures? All in favor? That's everyone. And last but not least,
5421, communicable diseases. I think I'm out of order. 5421, where's my sheets? I have nothing on my sheets. Clear. So the change that we made, this is a modification or an edit. It's in italics.
and we're against it. So that's okay. All right. So it is one of the shorter policies that were reviewed. So it's really
directly to the point.
Exactly. No questions? All in favor? That's everyone. Okay. Thank you, Judy, once again, for all your work and attending a July board meeting. And we appreciate that. And Leslie, thank you for attending a July board meeting.
And as someone who's been on the policy committee for the first year, let me just say that the work of Judy Hoffman and Dr. Myers around these policies has been nothing short of exceptional. So thank you both for the work.
Great. Thank you, Jen. And item O is board action on pending litigation. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion regarding the recent decision from what the Court of Appeals, I believe it was, that we petitioned to appeal that decision.
Second by Seth. Do you need?
No, I'm good.
Petition to appeal the
I got it.
decision
Got it.
from the Court of Appeals.
Petition we're appealing, petitioning the Court of Appeals to hear our appeal regarding a decision from the third department of the appellate division.
Yes.
All right. So,
All that legalese.
right, so whatever we need to have in the motion, hopefully we have. It was seconded by Seth, so any other questions regarding that motion? Comments? I guess I will just call the question. All in favor? That will be Judy, Jay, Rob, Seth, and Chris. Those opposed will be Sean. There are 3 absences tonight, so Brad, Pat, and Elbert are not in attendance, and so they were absent for this vote.
Passes.
And it does pass. We are a 9-person board, and so we have the required number. So that really does it for the board business, district business, and reprise. Anyone? Leslie doesn't want to talk anymore, I'm sure. And anyone else? You're good? And on to any other business by the board or the superintendent? Jay?
Regarding the dates, so I haven't been actively involved, so have we buttoned up a date for board retreat or anything?
Board development, August.
Board development?
9th.
August 9th? And what's the?
August 9th, that would be 6 p.m.
6 o'clock, right?
Where's that at, here? We don't know yet?
We do have a tentative location at the LACS library.
Okay.
But the best view in town.
Sure enough, it is. It's an amazing.
So that sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So that's all
We
you
have the
have.
agendas and
Yeah.
packets over here.
So that information is within this agenda being passed around. Okay, good. That Kimberly will share with us.
I have a question about this. I
Question
know
about,
that
Can't see it.
question about what, Judy?
if this is
This,
the...
you said
yeah,
this, right?
The special ed report. I know that legally we have to get it. I don't know that any of us read it or can understand it.
I read it.
You read it. Okay,
Right.
so that's good because nobody else does. And I was going to think that maybe, I know we have to get it, but it seems like such a waste of paper.
Well, soon we'll be going electronic anyway, so there will be no more waste of paper.
Okay.
But, so you asked me that.
Is there an update on that? Is there an update on going electronic?
Yes. Well,
Later?
I can give you that here in a second, but I want Bush to answer your question.
Well, Sean reads it, which is good.
Okay.
Because,
Your real question is, should we just do this electronically from here out rather than get the paper copy?
Yeah.
And I think that most boards should probably sit. I'm fine with getting electronically.
I am too.
I don't need a paper copy of it. I don't know if there's any, last time I asked the question though, I thought that there was something about we had to get a copy, so I'm not sure how we satisfy that requirement.
I don't know that.
It's electronic works just as well. And we are moving towards an electronic solution.
Okay.
But we're waiting for the tool that we that's winning the race right now. The two that's winning the race is going to be on a BOCES contract, and it will be much, much cheaper than anything we looked at, and it's the best product. So we're waiting for their contract to be finalized, and then we're looking to put a project plan in place, and then hopefully roll this out in the coming months. I know,
You're optimistic.
I'm optimistic.
And it's not anything that necessarily has to be done by the beginning of the school year, because we meet every month anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly.
So do we have, goal setting, the traditional goal setting committees? When's that all on the agenda?
Right, our board development.
Yeah, and that's part of the agenda, to talk about those committees going forward, and we'll have some conversations around goals.
Great, very good.
Right, and that's why we're talking about the goals and metrics today a little bit, just to get a glimpse of what, attaching the metrics to the goals, and then we'll go and we'll clarify our goals, are we going to change any of the language? Are we going to reduce our number of goals, or we're going to revisit them? No. We didn't think we would do it tonight.
No.
We would be nice to have everybody in the room. You good, Jay?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Jay.
Jay just misses us.
Without objection, and Jay's been traveling and stuff, and so that's good.
That's been in France.
Yeah.
I thought he'd have a little